Hi Cancer, welcome to your July reading and happy season, happy birthday. Okay, so, excuse me. This reading is called A Time of Reflection. We're going to do the astrology first, and then I have this new overhead setup so you can see the cards perfectly while I shuffle, and you can see the spread at the appropriate angle. So we'll do the cards in part 2. Now, first, let's talk about Saturn retrograde. Saturn retrograde is in Aquarius, so if you are a Cancer rising, like I am, then that's in your 8th house. So we're talking about your serious relationships. That means that you need a lot of time to yourself. You need to think things through. You need to deal with huge revelatory moments. You need to take a few on the chin. But more than anything, you cannot be rushed through this. Saturn is methodical. You also are methodical. There is a synergy, of course, between you and Saturn, being that it is the ruling planet of Capricorn. So it's not that it's going to be too tough. It's just tough in an arena of your life where you have an extreme soft spot. So that's really why it can feel tough, because it's a really in-depth look at your relationships from several angles. And some angles perhaps that you've never looked at yourself at either, you know. You've never looked at yourself at that angle before and you're like, oh, I didn't realize I was like that, or that I could make anyone feel that way, you know? So whatever it is, just don't get too in your head about it. Just remember that you are still a very good person and you're really fun and wonderful to be in a relationship with. Just because somebody has flaws and things they can work on doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So don't be too hard on yourself when these moments happen. Just remember, Saturn retrograde, it's teaching me how to be a more conscientious and better partner. And that's all it is. On July 5th, Mars will enter Taurus. So also the Hadron Collider will be turned on again. I'm just going to mention it in every video because I feel like it's really important. It's really easy to meet someone you very much like, be infatuated with them, jump into bed with them during this time, and it can end with a lot of pain. If you were to befriend that person and move very slowly, it could very well end up being a sexual encounter or a very lasting, deep, meaningful romantic relationship. But if you start it now with a casual encounter, you will ensure that that doesn't happen. So try as much as you can to get to know them and be their friend, and give yourself that respect and give them that respect. Because especially for Cancers, but I feel like this applies to everyone, when it's so important to get to know someone before you sleep with them. And not that we haven't all done the opposite, but once you sleep with them, especially if you have Cancerian placements in the big 3, you're going to end up liking them, even if you shouldn't. So it's important to get to know them as a person outside of that sexual relationship, to know if you really like them, because once sex is involved, you're going to smooth over things that you shouldn't. So that's very much the vibe right now with Mars entering Taurus. A lot of sexual energy around. There might be someone who really catches your eye. Someone that you're like, okay, I don't even really be liking people, but that one I like. So it can be difficult then to not do the reckless thing. And Cancerians can be quite reckless. Don't do it though. Just in the name of it being something so much more fulfilling and more beautiful if you don't do that. If you don't cheapen it somehow. Not that that behavior is in any way cheap. Everyone should do exactly as they want. But just because you know how you'll be about it later as well. Don't cheapen it in your own eyes. Let's put it that way. From July 5th to July 19th, we have Mercury in Cancer. So, the romance is on the way if you happen to be single, or even if you happen to be with someone. So if you're not happy with that person, you need to start thinking about this seriously. So before the romance gets here, because you know if you've waited a while now that the romance is going to be intense, it's really important that you figure out what you actually need and what's important to you. Venus being in Cancer is the perfect time to figure out what your deepest needs are. And it gives you the strength, cardinal water, to follow them. What makes you feel not loved, but love? When you figure that out, and you got a good 2 weeks to do it, just about. It's really easy for anybody to come along and love you, but pretty hard to get the job. Makes you very lovable, is what I mean, but also extremely picky, as you should be. So Mercury in Cancer is a time of figuring that out, sorting that through. And that's what the push will be. So go with that. July 17th, we have Venus moving into Cancer. I'm sorry, I was talking about Venus in Cancer when it's about the needs, and now we go back to Mercury in Cancer. I'm sorry, I messed that up. So I started talking about Venus in Cancer, and you figure out what you need. Mercury in Cancer is when you start to get those messages that when Venus moves into Cancer on the 17th, this all starts to make sense to you, and you realize that the romance is coming. And as soon as you realize Mercury in Cancer, what you need, and the information comes to you to figure out what you need, you have on the 17th Venus move into Cancer, and some very toxic, either real or imaginary connection. By imaginary, I mean some connection to some past something that doesn't exist anymore, but something that is a huge block. It's just pushed out of the way. It's removed, it's obliterated, it's turned into dust, whatever you want to visualize. And it's only happening this way. You can see this procession of planets through Cancer, through your sign, as a way of cleaning out the entire road to your heart. All this baggage that's been in the way, all the dust, all the lack of organization, and things left undone that were kind of pushed into that love corner of yours. Everything gets pushed out, pushed away. And yes, here comes your theme, of disillusionment. But it's beautiful because it opens doors for dreams that are so big that they couldn't quite fit in your cramped space before. So when those big dreams start coming in, don't be afraid either, because they will not be the size of what you're used to, because you will have made so much more room. You may, Cancer in general, right now feel like you have way more room than you ever have. And whether that's because you've moved to a new spot, or you've just cleaned up and made a lot more room, or you've gotten rid of a lot of ghosts and old things that you were hoarding, or you've, culled your friend group, or you've lost a bunch of weight, you've made, and you now have a lot more room. And it feels really good to be able to give yourself that. I think it makes you feel deeply loved and appreciated by self. And you may notice that when you give yourself room, which then does prompt you to feel deeply loved and cared for by self, i.e. not neglected, then you may have noticed that you have become a lot less dependent on exactly that from any other person. So I think with time you have built this superhuman ability to fulfill your own needs. And you have done so with the gusto and the charm with which you fulfill everybody else's needs. So, of course, you have done a great job. And I think you can start to really reap the benefits of having done so now when all this room is made. So from 7/27, so from July 27th to August 11th, you have the North Node and Uranus in conjunction in Taurus. Because we have just been talking about all this room being made and all these blockages being cleared, especially one really, really important, very toxic, very detrimental to your love life block being removed, it will not surprise you that this entire North Node Uranus conjunction in Taurus is marked for you as a time of meeting somebody very, very special. Someone that comes around once in a lifetime. So, of course, then I would suggest to you, me being me, that you kind of set July 27th as a deadline for whatever you want to work on. You know, if you're really unhappy with your skin or with your weight or with your clothes or with your job or with your motivation and energy levels, with your health in general, you know, it doesn't have to be a bunch of stuff. It can be one thing. It can be you start taking a multivitamin, or you start taking a walk, or you know, figure out a different product for your skin, or you start cutting things out of your diet, you know, so your body will work with you instead of against you. Whatever it is, you want to feel good in your body when this period between July 7th and August 11th occurs, because you know that when you feel good and healthy and strong in your body, your confidence level is very, very high, because your self-esteem as cardinal water is by definition very, very, very high. But often, because Cancerians' bodies can fluctuate so greatly, their security about self can get tied to that. So there is a way to combat that, just like recently, well, not recently now, about a year ago, we combated the security thing by really getting tough on savings and not spending frivolously, and then, you know, really reveling in the ensuing financial security that occurs, right? So in the same way, if you can get a handle on your skin and your eating habits, because in Cancer season, Cancerians do fluctuate wildly with their eating habits, then by the end of July, when this period hits, I think you'll feel really great and really confident and very ready for what comes next, a time of reflection followed by a time of adventure, is what I wish for you, for us. I love you. Now, let's shuffle the cards. Hi, Cancer. Welcome to the second part of your July reading. I hope you like this new setup. I'm really excited about it. As I've mentioned several times now. All right, so a time of reflection. Like we talked about at the beginning of part 1, Saturn's retrograde, and you have a chance here to think about relationships in depth. Now let's really look at that card for a second. 5 of Pentacles, and let's pick up that Knight of Pentacles, because you know how it goes. Is it possible that there are several situations when it comes to love relationships especially, where you knew that you would be doing all the heavy lifting. You knew that there was an element of charity and this person needing healing and this person needing so much from you because they just weren't, especially if they're an earth sign, but they just weren't all there. And you could kind of see it, maybe because you've been there, or maybe you could just, empathize deeply. But how many relationships have you been in that had this template and then ended with you being here? And when Mars moves into Taurus, it's very easy to do it again. So when I said, don't jump into bed with anyone, let's be honest, most of the people that you're attracted to have this how do I say it? This kind of hurt vibe. They can have a bit of that I need nurturing vibe. Even if it's subtle, it's there. This, that cool, broken person, or the really strong person that only maybe you can tell is broken. I think that's part of the Cancerian fetish, is going for people that only they can notice are in pain, or only they can see are feeling some type of way, and other people just think that that person is the type of person who has no feelings. And do you understand what I'm saying? So it's easy when you start to feel the heat of Mars and Taurus to find somebody like that again, somebody like this. And it's also easy because when we're not willing to deal with certain concepts on an abstract level, then of course they're going to show up in our reality. And we're going to have to deal with it that way. So if this pattern is something that you don't want to think about and you don't want to examine throughout July, then it may show up as a bad choice you make. Either way, the point is Saturn retrograde is here to teach you how to befriend people and get to really know if you like someone or if they really like you before the heat and the sex take over and there's really nothing left then, except like devotion. So we're learning, and also perhaps learning, as the cards are telling us here, that, pity and wanting to put someone back together is not the basis on which to start a relationship. As ridiculous as it may sound to some, that it has to be said. It has to be said. All right, let's go on. This is also talking about that toxic ending with Venus moving into Cancer. There's some sad, awful thing that you've been trying to let go of for a while. And I don't think it was actually going to go away until something big enough came around to move it or push it out of the way. And finally, if you're the quiet patient type, which a lot of you are, finally something has come along. Venus, it's called Venus. Finally, something has come along to get you moving. Okay? The Magician is that, that help magician in ancient or in a more traditional tarot reading is associated with Gemini, with the energy of Mercury. Finding the solutions, finding a way out, finding escape, right? The escape artist, the illusionist, the magician, the wizard, the one who has the answers. Something has pushed and is pushing and will on the 17th, inshallah, push very hard to get some blockage out of your life. It has to do with this up here. You already know.
And it's great because you don't have to do much. You just have to let go. I know that's doing a lot, but it's better than doing all the heavy lifting emotionally. You're just gonna kind of let the tide take this away with it. Don't overthink it. Okay, let's keep going. It's looking pretty good so far. I mean, yeah, we knew that this wasn't going to be easy. We knew Saturn retrograde wasn't going to let you just get away with it. You know what I mean? Queen of Wands and the Lovers. So the cool thing is we go through all this and things get pushed out of the way, right? And then from the 27th of July to August 11th, boom, boom. There you are, meeting people, feeling great, Leo season doing its thing. And, you know, love is in the air, and what's cool about it, it's the kind of love you like. You know how every sign is very particular, and Cancerians in general about everything are very particular. It's the kind of love, it's, you know, if you're with someone and it's like this explosion of like re-engaging with your loved one and it's romance and you feel like you just met again and it's so exciting. It's either that, or if you're single, then it's the kind of thing where because you waited and didn't jump into anything at the beginning of the month, by the end of the month, whether it's that person or somebody else that you've made room for by, you know, really letting go, it's exciting, it's romantic, it's exhilarating. And again, what's so great about it is, as a creature of the tide, all you have to do is let go and let the tide carry you into these different adventures and being exposed to these different people and, you know, letting your wounds be washed by this saline water and allowing the healing, allowing the pushing away, allowing, you know, with love, the letting go of things that want to be let go and need to be let go, if for no other reason than that there are aspects of you that are withering away if you don't let it go. Don't let your loyalty get in the way here. This has nothing to do with loyalty. It has to do with self-preservation. And no matter what you think, you need all aspects of you to be healthy and thriving for that self-preservation to actually take hold and be worth something. It's not enough to just preserve certain parts of yourself. That just makes you into some kind of android or zombie. You have to feed all parts of yourself, and that means that where you know that you are, you know, not letting yourself get any oxygen or blood flow to that aspect of your life, you need to stop. You need to let it go. And Venus moves into Cancer, and it doesn't give you a choice. That's what I like about this. Because you would just stay stuck right here. I mean, and then, you know, once we get into Leo season, once we're like midway into July, just remember to give yourself a little room. Remember to relax a little bit and give yourself a little room and, you know, a little space to just be. Now let's do some shuffling for the extended, and then we'll look at, you know, a closer look at that Magician as well, because I'm interested in the way this Venus in Cancer is working in our lives. Like, what's the specifics? I want to know. I want to know. But in general, let's shuffle through and find out more about what happens as we move into August. So that Scorpio energy already, it's just August, bro. All right, so we have the Ace of Wands, the Fool, the Eight of Cups, the Six of Cups, the Eight of Pentacles, the High Priestess. Let me move this down. I love this apparatus. I'm sorry I'm like using it so much, but I just like, oh man, it's so cool. It's the best. Let me get my stuff out of the way. My notes. Okay, I just want to make sure that you can see all this. All right. So these are the cards we're going to look at in the extended as we look more into late July and into early August. For me, this is reading a lot like that Uranus North Node conjunction that we're talking about. And again, very positive stuff here. All right. So I will see you in the extended. The link is below. You can receive the extended through Vimeo or join a subscription on Patreon. It's the easiest way, in my opinion. Or there is an extended instant link where you can just pay through PayPal and get it if you would like. Other than that, we have an event coming up in New York, inshallah, on August 14th. Indoor, outdoor, 420 friendly. And then on July 9th, which is very soon now, inshallah, we have an event in Denver. And I will put the Eventbrites for both of those below. Also, in mid-August, we are having a Night of Philosophy, which is an online event. And I will leave links for those below, tickets for that below as well. All right. That's it. I love you, Cancer. I will see you in your extended right now.